Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you are joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And we're always glad to get information from some of our representatives, especially in law enforcement, where they absolutely know what's happening in their parishes. We welcome back to the program Captain Brennan Matherne with Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having us. Good to be here.
We appreciate it. Look, one of the things that a lot of people are talking about is how we're keeping our kids safe in school. And I know that we just finished the school year, but let's just talk a little bit about some of the things that y'all go and all the extensive training that you guys go through to make sure we're keeping our kids safe.
Sure. And as a parent myself, as well as so many other deputies at the Sheriff's Office that attend public schools here in Lafourche Parish, this is something that is near and dear to us. And so anytime that we see anything happen across the country, we're always looking at those incidents. And certainly this most recent incident in Uvalde, we'll be looking at it as well as everyone else to look at what went wrong, how can that response have been better, and what can people have done. I know one of the main things people were concerned about was waiting to go into the school. And again, we don't have all the facts from Uvalde, and I'm certainly not criticizing them in any way because we don't have all that information yet. But from our perspective, the way, for the public's sake, for them to know, the way that we train is we don't wait. The first person that gets to a school certainly has the option if they feel like they need to wait for backup, and we don't force anyone to go in by themselves. But I can't really name too many people that would wait for backup or a second person when they know that they hear shooting going on inside of a school. So that's the way that we train, and frankly, that's the way that most agencies train now, and that has shifted, right? I mean, we've seen active or shoot responses in the past where we've waited for 3 or 4 more people to show up, depending on your agency, depending on the type of training you do, because you want to make sure you have all sides covered. We've learned from that experience, and thankfully we haven't had to learn from it from a bad experience here in Lafourche Parish, but other agencies have learned that that's not the best way. And so we've overcome and adapted, and now we have a system where the first person to get to a school absolutely has authority to go in.
And the other thing that's really good that we've talked about quite a bit is the communication about what needs to be done. And when we are boots on the ground, if you will, to a situation like that, there's always really good communication about who's where, who's going, and what the calculated plan is, if you will.
Oh, there's no question. And, we've always enjoyed a really great relationship with Lafourche Parish school system. And in my experience, I can comment certainly on our current situation. Superintendent Jared Martin and his staff are certainly no exception. And they've been outstanding to understand the dangers and the concerns that we as deputies, as parents have for the safety of our children. And they have been willing to work with us and have worked with us. We've done, and we still do, many active shooter trainings, some involving staged incidents, even involving student actors if need be. Where, in fact, all of our active training shooting pretty much is done inside of schools. Here during the summer months, while school is out, we will be conducting active shooter training inside of schools. So it's not just a perhaps one day we might encounter this, so let's go practice in an abandoned warehouse. No, we're actually practicing. Our training is done inside of school so that we can know exactly the types of obstacles and things that we may encounter when we enter one of these schools. And we don't just use one school. We've bounced around. I've personally done active shooter training in over half a dozen schools throughout the parish, and that's just me as the PIO. So I can imagine what our school resource officers are doing, as well as our crisis management unit and some of our other deputies throughout the year.
And it really starts at the academy. Those guys really start learning how and what to do very early on, and then y'all sharpen those skills, like you said, over the years.
The academy is definitely one of the places where having gone through it, I can tell you that was the most significant training of active shooter. It introduces it to you. I remember at the time, Captain Jeremy Grenier, now a major with us at the Sheriff's Office, painted, had us close our eyes one day And again, these are a bunch of cadets, and we're trying to imagine when we started active shooter training that first day, he made us all close our eyes and imagine a scenario. And he painted a grisly picture of us to walk into. And the reality is we might walk into that picture and what we could encounter and whether we could do what was necessary to stop the threat when we got to it. And that was really a cornerstone of the academy at that point. And he asked everybody in the class, if you couldn't do what you need to do, you really need to be thinking about your choice of line of duty. And again, I think when you talk about it now, when I went to the academy, I was not a parent. And now as a parent, it's even more paramount that action be taken. But the good news, like I said, Keith, is everyone that is post-certified at the sheriff's office, whether it's an animal control officer or myself as the PIO, a patrol deputy, or even a corrections officer who might be out and about, they get that call and they have to be ready to know how to respond.
Well, and it's wonderful that you have all of that training and where it starts. I like the fact that you mentioned, as we close out this segment, a little bit about the different settings that you've done that. Because quite frankly, each of those schools, they're all different. The demography of each of those schools is very different. So being able to know where to be, how to keep people safe, and how to, like you said, eliminate that threat is sometimes something you've got to really think about in all of the different schools. And right now, some of those schools are even changing. Look, we talk about what we prepare for, what we're always ready for, that happens, that we never want to have happen in our school system, to some of the issues that are happening in the community, shootings that are taking place in the community. Let's talk a little bit about how we keep people protected and safe in those environments.
Well, just like a school shooting or an active shooter training in a school, we're preparing for something that we hope never happens. And thankfully, we don't have an epidemic, so to speak, of these shootings going on at businesses. But it's a real concern for people that work in an office, just as it is for students in a school. And the sheriff's office has taken note of that. We actually do offer training to private businesses and have offered it in the past. On the same type of tactics that we use, obviously not responding to a threat, but with regard to students and how students train in schools. Avoid, deny, defend is the acronym that we use, ADD. And essentially, we just train businesses and employees to how to avoid threats, whether it be run away, to get out of harm's way, to deny, to lock themselves up and barricade themselves as best they can, and to defend. Once you are confronted with the imminent danger of an active shooter, how to stay alive and make it home to your kids. So it's a real concern, and hopefully we never have that situation happen in Lafourche. But we've had threats recently in the Thibodaux area. Technically, it was in Terrebonne Parish, but that's always a concern for citizens anytime, anywhere they go, especially movie theaters nowadays.
Yeah, and one of those things is, workplace violence is a very real issue. And so it doesn't really matter what your business is or business type is. I love the fact that Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office offers that and says, let us partner with you to make sure that we keep you safe and for people to know what to do. It's one of the things you mentioned about keeping people prepared as they learned in the academy what to do in that grim situation that you described earlier. We almost need to kind of discuss what may happen or what issues may come up so that people are better prepared so they can respond in a functional way.
Yeah, make no mistake. I mean, we have an incredible duty and job to do here at the Sheriff's Office, but it all starts with the community and our partnership with not only businesses, but just individual members of the community and educating them on how to protect themselves from becoming victims of crime is paramount for us. And if you follow us on social media, if you follow our news releases, you see that we take an active role in trying to educate people how to avoid becoming criminals, whether it's locking your car doors and your house doors at 9 o'clock at night, or educating you about catalytic converter thefts and why they're so popular. Or we just had a recent incident where an individual planted a camera inside of a home. We want to make sure that people are aware of those dangers and how to look for them. And even furthermore, when we announced that recent one with the video voyeur, we even encourage people to call our criminal investigations department and have us come to your home. If you had this individual work in your house, or you had any individuals and you just are super paranoid about that sort of stuff, give our investigations division a call. We will absolutely assist in coming out and checking your home for any situations that might be suspicious.
Yeah, and just seeing things that you recognize that just don't look the same or things that look very differently. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're paranoid. You just recognize that something's different, something's off, or you hear a buzzing or something. You know, those kinds of things that are different. Give your the office of the Lafourche Sheriff's Office a call and let y'all come and investigate and kind of see what you can find. If anything, to be able to rest easy that there's nothing there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in this particular case with the video camera, one of the children in the house saw a red light coming from a bathroom vent. But as you know, it's more sophisticated equipment. You know, there's plenty of spy cameras out there that have no indication that they are constantly recording. So it's important for you to check those things. And like you said, it's not always about being paranoid. It's about being concerned. And you know, especially if you have children in the house, anytime you leave the house, anytime you go to a hotel, I know a lot of people, you know, kind of scan the room and make sure that there's nothing planted in there as well. So these are all, you know, just general concerns that we should all be aware about, that especially as parents.
Yeah, and speaking of parents and speaking of kids, we've got a couple of minutes left. It's summertime and people are going to be out in pools. There's some certain things that they need to be aware of, and pool safety is really important at this time of year.
Yeah, and you know, anytime we give safety talks that we've done 100 times over, you know, I think everybody knows the basics about you know, safety, about making sure if you have a pool at your house that it's locked up, that people can't get access to it, especially small children. I think for today's world, you know, the main things that we want to concentrate on is, we understand, you know, just like we talk about at Halloween and being distracted with your phone and not keeping an eye on your kids, it's the same thing during the summer when they're in a pool. Pool time is not the time you want to be checking your email and text and having a conversation with people. It's a time where you want to have all of your concentration on that pool at all times, on your child or children, and making sure that they're okay. You want to eliminate every distraction when your kids are in the pool. You know, there's all kinds of obvious stuff that we could talk about with pool safety, but I think those are obvious to parents. I think putting the phone down and keeping an eye on your kids should be priority one.
Yeah, and if you have some issue with the fencing that's down, then do something temporary to keep people out of or not able to get into your pools. If in fact, you know, since we're all still recovering from Ida and those kinds of things, but certainly, you know, the pool safety, again, some obvious things, but just like driving, don't get distracted. Make sure that your focus is there. So Captain Brennan, we thank you so very much for all of your time as always, and thank you for the updates and the good recommendations, and thank y'all for keeping everybody safe out there. We appreciate it.
Keith, thank y'all so much for y'all doing, keeping the public informed.
Absolutely. Take care. Great summer to you. We'll talk soon. And again, that's Captain Brennan Matherne, Public Information Officer with the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. We appreciate his time. Appreciate your time as well. Don't go anywhere. A lot more by you time when we continue.